Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a wonderful day so far. So in today's video, we have some huge news coming out yesterday from House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and also President Joe Biden. They're trying to reach some sort of an agreement on the debt ceiling. And this is extremely important because according to Moody's Analytics, if they don't reach some sort of deal by later this summer, it's very possible that the state of our economy in the United States could dip into a state comparable to the Great Recession where millions of jobs are lost, the unemployment rate ends up soaring, our GDP decreases, and overall we're just going to be in a very, very difficult time. Now, before I get into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just doing all that YouTube stuff, liking this video, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so we have some huge news once again coming out of the House yesterday with Speaker Kevin McCarthy for the first time writing down his demands in order to raise the debt ceiling. In his letter, he wrote, "House Republicans are united in our view that the best way to reduce the national debt is to limit spending, save taxpayer money, and grow the economy. I am prepared to sit down to discuss a variety of means to do so that would achieve trillions of dollars in savings and economic growth, some of which you even agreed to during the Biden debt limit talks of 2011. These include, but are not limited to, reducing excessive non-defense government spending to pre-inflationary levels and limiting out-year growth similar to what Senator Joe Manchin has proposed, reclaiming unspent COVID funds that have sat dormant for over 2 years, strengthening work requirements for those without dependents who can work, as was enacted under President Bill Clinton and which you voted for as a United States Senator, and policies to grow our economy and keep Americans safe, including measures to lower energy costs, make America energy independent, and secure our border from the flow of deadly fentanyl that is killing 300 Americans per day. Taken together, such policies would help address the number one issue facing Americans today, stubbornly high inflation brought on by reckless government spending. Mr. President, simply put, you are on the clock. It's time to drop the partisanship, roll up our sleeves, and find common ground on this urgent challenge. Please have your team reach out to mine by the end of this week to set a date for our next meeting." So McCarthy here is basically asking for a few different demands that he's saying that his Democratic colleagues must agree upon in order for them to raise the debt ceiling. These include recouping unused COVID aid, instilling work requirements on means-tested programs like Medicaid and food stamps, scaling back federal spending to fiscal year 2022, and certain energy reforms. Now, apparently one Republican representative in Matt Gaetz is saying that he's actually the one behind all these work requirement ideas in the letter by Speaker McCarthy. So according to the New Republic, Matt Gaetz is apparently rallying his colleagues to force work requirements on people in order for them to get health care. The Florida representative told Semaphore that he's been pitching the idea of tightening Medicaid eligibility on able-bodied working age adults as part of a potential deal to raise the debt ceiling. Semaphore reported Gaetz has been garnering a very positive reception to his pitch, including from House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Quote, "Work requirements are proving to be a very unifying concept with my colleagues," Gaetz said. Gaetz also sort of doubled down on this idea on Twitter, so he tweeted out that work requirements on means-tested programs like Medicaid and food stamps will curtail inflationary government spending and increase labor participation. So in response to this letter from Speaker McCarthy to President Joe Biden, we actually had Biden's press secretary respond. So in her statement, she said that Congress has a constitutional obligation to address the debt limit, as it did 3 times in the previous administration without conditions. Business leaders and economists have warned that the threat of a default risks the livelihoods of American small businesses, retirees, and working families, and would hand a massive win to China, and recent events underscore the need for Congress to address the debt limit as soon as possible. It's time for Republicans to stop playing games, pass a clean debt ceiling bill, and quit threatening our economic recovery. Then, of course, we had a response from President Joe Biden himself. So in the letter, we're just going to read the last part here. He said that unfortunately, the tax proposals from the House Republican Conference would exacerbate the debt problem I inherited by adding over $3 trillion in new tax spending skewed to the same constituencies who should be paying more, like multinational corporations and the richest taxpayers. That is one reason why seeing your full set of proposals would be useful before we meet, so we can understand the full combined impact on the deficit, the economy, and American families. My hope is that House Republicans can present the American public with your budget plan before Congress leaves for the Easter recess so that we can have an in-depth conversation when you return. As I have repeatedly said, that conversation must be separate from prompt action on the Congress's basic obligation to pay the nation's bills and avoid economic catastrophe. I look forward to your response to eliminating the specter of default and to your budget. Now, according to numerous news outlets like Punchbowl News, this is something that's incredibly unlikely to happen just because a budget plan takes several weeks to come up with, and then we have Easter coming up in just a couple of weeks. So they're going to be leaving DC very soon, so it's very unlikely that they come up with what Biden is requesting. And remember, according to the Congressional Budget Office, we will be reaching the debt ceiling at some point between July through September, and it could possibly be even earlier depending on certain factors. So right now, they are going to be about 3 to 5 months away from having to raise the debt ceiling in order to avoid this complete catastrophe. So it is very important that they get something done, because if they don't and they're unable to raise the debt ceiling and we have some sort of default, obviously, this would be a complete disaster. According to Mark Zandi, a chief economist at Moody's, a default would kill off millions of jobs and basically just kill off our economy altogether. The report by Moody's also said that a prolonged breach of the debt ceiling would kill off more than 7 million jobs, have the unemployment rate soar to above 8%, and $10 trillion in household wealth would vanish as stocks plunge by more than 20%. So this is something that we obviously want to completely avoid if possible. Really, right now at the moment, I think it's just sort of a game being played by Democrats and Republicans. They're sort of going back and forth. They know that the threat of the debt ceiling not being raised right now is not imminent. And I think once that deadline gets a little bit closer, we're going to see the Democrats sort of give in to the Republicans a little bit more. We're going to see the Republicans give in to the Democrats a little bit more, because if they let this happen, if either side gets blamed for this happening and we see the stock market completely collapse, we see the unemployment rate rise, this is something that neither side wants. But right now they're sort of playing chicken with each other to see which side will give in first. But once we get closer, we're definitely going to see both sides sort of give in. I don't know which side is going to give in the most, but right now the Republican Party has a lot of demands. So I think the Republicans are probably not going to get all their demands, but they're probably going to get some of them. So Democrats are really going to be the ones that have to give in the most here, at least in my opinion. But we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Again, I don't think this is something that is going to happen. Both sides are going to be highly motivated to make a deal because neither side wants to take the blame for the debt ceiling not being raised. So again, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. But let me know what your thoughts and comments are in the comment section below as usual. But that's all the news that we have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed and found value out of it. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. And I will see you in the next video.